puts up a three. Yes! And a goal!
It's Bearcat Blitz getting into a post-Crosstown shootout show this week on the Believe Network. We're presented by Bet Online. I'm your host, Russ Eltman. He's my co-host, Neil Meyer. First half of the show, very excited to welcome on former UC star Corie Blount, class of 1993, and a member of the 92 Final Four team and 1993 Elite Eight team. He was there in person, in the locker room, just taking it all in across the 68-65 win by his Bearcats over the Xavier Musketeers. First time this decade that Cincinnati has won a game in the Crosstown Shootout series. We'll talk with Corie about the win and all that good stuff in the first half of the show. And then the back half of the show, we are diving into the transfer portal success so far for Cincinnati football. They did a great job on the portal last year, and they're doing a solid job so far, probably nailing down maybe 4 starters out of 4 transfer additions so far as of this recording. Before we get to all that, though, I'll tell you about Bet Online, and we'll get to a quick break after that. Bet Online continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, Bet Online provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC. Head to Bet Online today, and don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online. The game starts here. We'll start with a quick break. Message from our sponsors. We'll get back into it with UC legend Corie Blount from the early 90s star teams right here on Bearcat Blitz. Bringing in the legend now, Corie Blount. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, member of the 92 Final Four team at UC, 1993 Elite Eight team at UC. Corie started 50 games in his 2 seasons at Cincinnati and averaged 9.4 points, 7 rebounds per game, 84 block shots in his time at Cincinnati. And in 1992 was UC's first with 50-plus since 1978. Great star, great talent, Corie Blount. Corie, thank you so much for jumping on the show this week and recapping the shootout with us.
Hey, man, thank you. And I'm excited to be here and happy to be here to talk about something really good that happened this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for coming on, Corie. I know you were in the building on Saturday. Just walk us through what that environment was like for you guys, especially as the former alumni there. We saw you take your victory lap there once that final buzzer hit. Just walk us through what Saturday was like for you.
Man, I was just excited to finally get that win. Like you stated earlier, that was our first win in a decade. That just sounds crazy. Like for you to be able to say that that's our first, Crosstown shootout win in a decade. So
win this decade, that 5-year losing streak, but yeah, this decade for sure. Don't sell your boys too short there, Corie. Come on now.
Same thing, but no, I was just excited because I wasn't supposed to be there, man. I just got back from China, and I didn't want to try to call and get tickets at the last minute. So it just happened that my daughter ended up going, was working, and Karen Hatcher had saw her at the restaurant and asked her, was I coming to the game? And she told Karen that, no, my dad just got back in town, and he said he didn't want to try to get tickets at the last minute. And Karen said, oh, no, we got to have him in the building. So she ended up calling me and saying, do you want to come? I'm like, of course. So I was just going to go to the bar. I was supposed to meet up with some former Xavier guys to talk trash about the game. Walt McBride and Jamal Walker, we was all trying to get together. And then I told them, I ain't going to be able to meet you guys now. I got tickets, so I'm going to the game. And, man, just the whole atmosphere, I was just in awe of the whole the aura of the arena that day. Like, that game is critical to the city and brings a lot of excitement. And for us to be able to host it this year and hopefully come in with an opportunity to win, man, I just wanted us to pull that thing off because I thought it was important for Wes. I love Wes, and I love everything he's bringing to the program, and I just knew that would be a good win for that group of guys and for him also and his coaching staff and for the students, and I just thought it was a good atmosphere to pull this win off, and it was tough, but we did what we were supposed to do at the last minute and got the win.
Corie, you were undefeated in your time against Xavier at Cincinnati. Those final moments, those final minutes when Cincinnati was nip tuck with Xavier, it feels like it's if you play 5 shootouts, at least 4 of them are going to be down to the wire each and every time. Is that just the way this rivalry has kind of formulated to be, where even during your time, where it's just no matter what the records are, how the two teams are playing, it's going to be fueled by hate, and when it's fueled by hate, it's going to be pretty close down at the end.
Yeah, I think except for last year, I think they did their thing last year when we played them at Xavier. But before that, this rivalry is a nip and tuck type of rivalry because both teams are coming to definitely get the win, but the intensity around it has been felt ever since I played. When I got here, I wasn't familiar with the rivalry, but just being in Cincinnati and seeing the hype that came about it. Back then, a lot of us used to play against each other during the summer. So I knew Brian Grant, Aaron Williams, and all those guys. So, it was a competition for us because we wanted to be able to talk trash to each other during the summer. But the city just embraced this thing. And it just over the years, before and after that, you just kind of felt the excitement and how much this rivalry, as far as the history and what it meant to the city. And so when you get in these games, you automatically know it's going to be a battle and a war. Unfortunately, I just want to add this too. Unfortunately, they had the game on ESPN Plus, and I'm like everybody's calling me like, man, I can't get the game, and I'm like, well, what channel is it on? They like, I'm telling them, I'm sure it's on ESPN. No, it's not on ESPN. So come to find out, it was on ESPN Plus, and I'm like, how is that possible? One of the biggest rivalries in college basketball. It's always a great event. The city does a phenomenal job of promoting it. And we got on ESPN Plus. So that definitely has to change next year. But just the excitement and the history of this rivalry, man, it just brings the best out of both teams.
No doubt.
Yeah.
What do you got?
And then, Corie, too, talk about the leading up to this game. Obviously, Coach Miller was able to bring guys like yourself, Kenyon Martin, Steve Logan, a lot of other alumni back to practice. You guys spoke in the locker room at that. Talk about those moments there. Obviously, saw you guys were in the locker room after the game. Just talk about that moment there, seeing him that excited, fired up after that victory.
Yeah, it was sweet, man. And like I said, I was out of the country all for the last 10 days, so I didn't get a chance to be on campus or anything. But I knew when I got back, I was going to try to make my way over there and see how things were going. And unfortunately, I didn't get back in time. But when I came to the arena and saw that Kenyon and Stokes and Logan and all those guys were here, man, it was just a good feeling. And Wes has done a phenomenal job of bringing guys back and keeping them included in the history and the program. So it just helps us come back, feel welcome, and all the former players and the current players. We talk, we get a chance to meet those kids and talk to them about our experiences, and it's just building that family bond. So after the win, I had to go in there and just tell them guys, man, I'm so proud of you guys, and you guys deserve this. And I told a couple of kids, like, right now you might not know, you might just feel good about this win, but 5-10 years later, when you're sitting around like I am around older guys and older players, and you talk about your record against Xavier, it's going to mean a lot. So you guys pulled off a big win today, and you should be happy. And it was just a good feeling seeing those older guys and the current guys just celebrating the way we did.
Corie Blount, UC legend, joining the show this week on Bearcat Blitz. I'm your host, Russ Heltman. It's my co-host, Neil Meyer. Corie, of course, part of the 1992 Final Four team, 1993 Elite Eight team, then went on to play 11 NBA seasons after being a first-round pick of the Chicago Bulls in 1993. So, Corie, you've been around a lot of coaches at every different level. Why are you bought into what Wes is doing in Cincinnati?
Well, he was. I just remembered when he got the job, he made the comment like he wasn't married. So his whole thing was, I'm going to be a basketball junkie. That's who I am, and I'm going to be able to dedicate my time to building this program. And one thing I'm going to do is make sure that I bring quality guys in, and we're going to continue to build the legacy of the Bearcat basketball. And I thought he's done a phenomenal job doing that. He's a very likable person. You know, he conducts himself and expresses himself very, very well to his players and to people that's engaged in the program. So he's just a likable guy, you know, and I think from my experiences of just interacting with him, man, I was a fan. You know, at first I didn't really know what to expect, but since then, man, I love the guy. I love everything he brought to the program. I love the category of players he brought to the program, and then just being the face of the program. Man, I don't want to brag on him too much because I don't want him to be too successful, because you know what happens. They end up getting bought. You know what I mean? So if I need to say some
keep
bad
winning,
things,
Hubert Davis. Keep winning over there in North Carolina. Don't start
if
losing.
I need to say some bad things to keep him here, I'll say that, because I really like Wes and just happy for the success that he's starting to have this season.
Corie, so there was a point in time on Saturday, right before the halftime, where Zach Fremantle hits the three to kind of trim the lead. He looked to appear to talk to Kenyon. I just wanted to figure out, like, what was your thoughts on that moment? Obviously, Cincinnati did a great job eliminating him in the second half, but do you think that was kind of one of those moments where Cincinnati kind of used that as fire there, especially going into the second half?
Yeah, you know, I saw the comments that Fremantle made, said how that these are the type of games he lives for. And I knew he was going to play well. You know, I didn't really know about the other guys, but I kind of had a feeling that he was going to be tough to guard because of his skill set and just watching him play a couple games. And I was a little concerned about Ryan getting off too. So he kind of struggled in the first half, and then, you know, he got hot in the second half. But Fremantle, once he did that, I said, oh, he's feeling himself now. But Bandango dunked on him a couple times too to kind of calm his ass down too, and some nasty dunks. So I was really geeked about that, because I'm a fan of Bandango also, man. You know, I've been joking about him all season, like, man, when you start dunking, would you please hang on the rim for me? And he always laugh it off. So he got a couple nice dunks yesterday, and I thought that put Fremantle in his place, because he was going. He had it going very good at the beginning of the game, and then he made that little look over there at Kenyon, and I knew Kenyon was over there talking trash to him, because I know Kenyon, and so it was just a good atmosphere. And just to piggyback on that, man, I'm a fan of Sean Miller too. You know, I've met him a couple of times, and I just think UC basketball and Xavier basketball is in a great position to be successful with those two guys leading the helm. And we ought to feel good about that right now, man. We should be proud that both of these teams have the ability to play well, hopefully make some deep runs in the tournament, and give us something to cheer about on both sides.
Corie, you guys not necessarily used your wins in the Crosstown Shootout to springboard to success in the postseason during your seasons here, but does that play a factor? Do you get a boost when you win that rivalry game to push you forward through the rest of the season? Obviously, it happened a lot later in the calendar back when you played. I wish we still had this game kind of in right before February. It'd be a lot better place, in my opinion, for it to be played, but it's in the middle of the non-conference now, stably. Did you guys feel that, though, maybe closer to the postseason, getting a boost off of this game and this win? Oh,
no doubt. No doubt. It was definitely a momentum builder for us, because when I came, really nobody knew who we were, you know, and that game gave us a chance to give our identity and how we played and who we wanted to be and what we were going to do as far as for UC basketball. So for us to get that win the way we won, and then my teammate making the comment he did before the game, he didn't have a clue about the shootout, but he predicted that we was going to beat them by 20. So once he did that, we had
close. It was 8. Well, I think it was like 93-75. He was almost on the money on that one.
Yeah. And that's a moment in time where we always think about, because Terry was only averaging like 3 points or 4 points a game. For him to make that statement, we just knew we had to go ride for him, and we did it. And it was a momentum builder for sure, because that gave us the ability to have the city support us, you know, gave us bragging rights. And then we just knew from that win, we were going to be pretty good, because Xavier had a damn good team that year.
Mm-hmm.
Corie, obviously Cincinnati rocked a unique alternate uniform for this contest. First time. Just what were your thoughts on the jerseys on Saturday? And if you have you been able to secure one of those bad boys yet?
Man, no, but I like those. Were dope, man. Those were dope. I like the whole design and everything. I don't know how you can get one, but I definitely would want one. usually I always order a jersey and I have my name put on the back with my number. So I'm gonna have to get that black one and that 44 to hang on my wall too.
Yeah, maybe we can get the elephant print court next. Little Black Cats elephant print court at home. That would be pretty sweet.
That'd be sweet, right?
That'd be fantastic. Neil, you got anything else for Corie? If not, we can let the legend get on with the rest of his week.
Yeah, man. I just want to thank you for coming on. Obviously, I know it was kind of last minute thing, but we appreciate you for taking the time, Corie. Obviously, your insight. This has been a great time. So definitely we'll stay in touch. So yeah, thank you for coming on, man. We really appreciate it.
Man, no problem. You know, I see you around all the time, man, and we always smile and shake hands. So when you ask me, it's a no-brainer. If you guys ever need me back, don't hesitate to call, man. Appreciate it. Hope you guys have continued success with the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Corie.
All right, man. Take care.
Fantastic opening segment with Corie Blount. Some insight into just the importance of this rivalry and the way it can springboard you for the rest of the season. And we'll see if that happens, springboarding into, and honestly, Neil, even tougher game this coming weekend in a neutral site against the Dayton team that just hosted Marquette probably for the last time ever. I don't think Marquette's ever going to want to come back to UD Arena. Unfortunately, maybe no big name.
Nobody's going to want to play at UD Arena.
Right. After they basically, I mean, Neil, they kind of controlled that entire game. It wasn't really like a last minute upset or anything like that out of UD, who is probably, we're recording this before the AP poll releases, going to be in the top 25. And we're going to have I would expect a top 25 matchup on Friday night in downtown Cincinnati. Just what a time to be a tri-state area basketball fan. It is, there's a lot of good ball happening, and a lot of good ball happening this past weekend for Cincinnati. Corie Blount there to take it all in. UC legend. A lot of fun just now talking the 68-65 win over Xavier. Real quick, Neil. Overall, just my takeaway from that game, and we'll get to the break after this with your takeaway as well. Aziz Bandaogo. He was my MVP before the season. Him and Dylan Mitchell powered this victory, in my opinion. They do not win this game without the front court of Cincinnati playing as well as it did compared to how poorly the backcourt played. And the Bandaogo to go 4 for 4 from the field, 5 rebounds. He had a couple blocks as well. Goes 4 of 6 from the free throw line, or 1 block, in this game. Goes 4 of 6 from the free throw line. They shoot 73% as a team after entering the game 361st out of 364 teams nationally in free throw percentage. Aziz Bandaogo was the big takeaway for me, thinking if he can score at this consistent rate like he has over the past 2 games for Cincinnati, they're going to be a very difficult team to beat, as noted by, I think it was Riverfront Cincy, our friend from Riverfront Cincy, Ryan Roberts, who said that the Bearcats, I think, are 11-1 in Bandaogo's career at Cincinnati when he scores in double figures. Aziz Bandaogo, I picked him to be an MVP for the exact reason we saw him show out on Saturday afternoon. What do you got, Neil?
Yeah, no, Russ, I think it was Aziz Bandaogo and Dylan Mitchell altered this game in so many different ways because, Russ, let's talk about it. The key momentum of this game was when Aziz Bandaogo went 4 rows into the stands to save a loose ball that turned into a 3. That was the difference.
Right, that wasn't even in the box score.
You can't even add that to the box score. But on top of it, that was the game. That was a play right there where you look down. And Aziz has only been in this rivalry for 2 years. But, man, he understood what this rivalry is all about. He laid it all out there on the line. And without that play, Russ, let's talk about it because he saves that ball. It springs into the corner for Day Thomas's only 3 of the game. So that was, not only did he keep the possession alive, but that was a huge swing in events for Cincinnati. And then on top of it, heck, Dylan Mitchell goes down and rolls an ankle around the 8-minute mark. And what
guts it out.
A serious ankle injury, was slow to get up. And the next thing you know, he told Wes and Bob, he was like, just tying him up. And then he goes out and has a 12-point, 10-rebound double-double. And he even told the broadcast after that he lived in this moment and he lives for those big moments. And this was the most fun he had in his career. And you could kind of see what Dylan Mitchell was quickly turning into for Cincinnati. I mean, Russ, we talk about guys like David DeJulius, John Newman going down as Bearcats favorites, fan favorites. And what probably down the line, we're going to be talking about those guys being legends eventually. Dylan Mitchell is etching his name quickly into that kind of realm with guys like David DeJulius and John Newman, because he just understands the grit and the passion that this team wants to play with. And, man, first Crosstown shootout, Russ, to have that kind of performance, I thought those 2 guys were the difference maker. But, man, like Corie said, when Zach Freemantle started going there in the first half, there was times you were worried. You're like, okay, he's going to take off again. But Aziz Bandaogo just rose to the occasion in the second half. And I mean, man, he was electric, Russ. He really was. Him and Dylan Mitchell together, if they play like that all season, it's going to be a pretty fun time in Cincinnati.
That it is. And Wes mentioned how they extended Aziz's minutes in this game, played him 30 plus. I think 31 total minutes for Aziz in this contest. Yeah, I think that was the season high for Bandaogo. One more note from me. How about Wes adjusting his strategy in a big game compared to what we saw against Georgia Tech? What did he do, Neil, against Georgia Tech? Too many men on the court, too many options, too many bodies out there. What did he do in this game? He shortened the rotation, went with his studs in the second half. I believe Tyler Betsy played 0 minutes in the second half. Yep. Ayrton Page, only 3 minutes. Connor Hickman had 9. I mean, Neil, it was Skillings, James, Mitchell, Lukosius, Bandaogo, and Thomas. That was your 6-man killer lineup. That's what he rolled with in the second half. And likely, Neil, maybe Hickman, maybe Betsy eventually, as he gets more run underneath him, makes it a 7-8 man lineup in crunch time in these really tough scenarios. But that's a strong 6 to go to war with. That's for sure.
Yeah. And you mentioned it too, Russ. Connor Hickman, we got to talk about it. He came into this game where he was struggling the last few games, but man, first Crosstown shootout, and obviously just finished with 9 points. But the shots he hit, the big corner 3, the catch and release. I don't think I've ever seen anybody catch and release quicker than what Connor Hickman did on the first 3. That ended up being huge. But his defensive efforts too, Russ, that has to be talked about as well, because he was relentless on both ends and came up big as well. And we aren't really talking about him as much, but he played a huge role for Cincinnati on Saturday as well.
We'll get to a full preview of Dayton and more basketball talk on the Thursday episode. Probably we'll lead with the Dayton preview and dive more into some trickling left items out there in the ether from Xavier. And I imagine maybe we'll get some kind of Wes Miller press conference over the next couple of days. Nothing scheduled as of this recording, but I'm sure there will be something before the latest local matchup. I love this stuff, man. I love it so much that Wes Miller is willing to schedule these local games, these local opponents, go to NKU. Welcome in Dayton. I hope we're going to UD Arena, Neil and I, sometime in the next couple of years, because I'd love to see a home and home series set up between UD and Cincinnati. It's what we need in this city, what we need in this tri-state, what we need in this region is more of these great local basketball teams playing each other. We get that this coming weekend. Some great transfer portal talent, maybe great transfer portal talent, very good transfer portal talent added over the weekend from the football side of things. We'll get to that in just a few moments on Bearcat Blitz. Neil, the Athletic publication, likes what they're seeing from Cincinnati so far in the transfer portal. Manny Navarro listed them as his first winner of the opening week in the 2024 winter transfer cycle. And it's not hard to see why, as they have already filled needs at their 4 biggest positional needs, I would say, on the entire board, Neil, when you think about wide receiver, interior offensive line / exterior offensive line. We'll see where Tarantayo actually lines up. He's probably going to be an interior guy, most likely going to be playing guard, edge rusher, and cornerback. Those were, I would say, the 4 biggest needs on this roster, and they've addressed them already, Neil, in Caleb Goody, Tarantayo, Jalen White, and Matthew McDoom. We'll start with McDoom because I think that's the biggest add of the entire cycle so far. Neil, I feel like Matthew McDoom can come in right away and at least give you close to what Jordan Young gave you as your cover corner in 2024, a 77 to 81-ish PFF grade, solid measurables. I think we could see from Matthew McDoom in a jump up in playing level from Coastal Carolina at the group of 5 to Cincinnati at this mark. We'll start with Matthew McDoom. I love this addition. 36 tackles, 3 interceptions, 10 PBUs last season, 84.5 PFF grade on 547 snaps, only allowed 1 touchdown. And he's got so much experience, man. Almost 1,300 career snaps of outside corner experience at Coastal Carolina. he figures to be the shutdown man right away for Cincinnati.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Russ. And that's a huge addition because this was a guy that Cincinnati identified early in the transfer portal window. And then they get him to get on campus and quickly secure the deal. And it kind of reminded you of something similar with Brendan Sorsby last year. The staff identified their guy and locked him down immediately. But Russ, this is a guy who could come in immediately and step in for Jordan Young. But it's also going to be worth noting, too, like, Russ, we're going to have some pretty fun nicknames this year with Matthew McDoom there. I mean, McDoom Island, if he lays a big hit, Matthew McDoom with the boom. Like, there's going to be some fun times up there in Clifton. And this is a great, great addition to the cornerback room, especially after you lose your number one guy in Jordan Young. Cincinnati wasted no time in going out getting a veteran and experienced guy in the transfer portal.
That they did. We'll move on. Staying on the defensive side of things, Jalen White coming over. Jalen White McLean, his full name, coming over from Old Dominion. I like this addition as well, Neil. 2 years of eligibility left. I think that's the same as McDoom. McDoom has 2 years left. Yeah, they both do. Right?
Yeah, they both have 2 years.
No, wait, no. McDoom, I think he has 1 year. McDoom is using his final year of eligibility this year.
Yeah, still, it's a big-time addition for Cincinnati, especially looking at the edge position last year. That was kind of one of their positions of weakness on that defensive line. You lose Eric Phillips, who's out of eligibility. You're going to get Micah Coleman back. Now you get to pair Micah Coleman alongside another 6'5", 255-pound veteran guy in Jalen White McLean.
Yeah.
I love this addition because, Russ, obviously you get him here in January. You give him a full, complete spring and offseason or winter and spring with Coach Nico Palizzetti and the strength staff and everything. I would expect him to be closer to 260, 265 heading into the season if I had to imagine. It's going to be a great addition for that defensive line for Cincinnati.
41 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles this past season, 2 years of eligibility. Sorry, I got my wires crossed. Neil and I trying to figure out McDoom there. McDoom, almost positive, 1 year of eligibility left going into his final campaign here. McLean, Jalen White, I think is another solid addition. 72.2 overall PFF grade on 510 snaps this past season. 6'4", 254 pounds. Should mix in well with Rob Jackson, Micah Coleman as your edge rushers right now. Marquez Parker, hopefully seeing a leap from him in his sophomore season coming in here. So I imagine, Neil, they're going to add one more edge to the fold over the next few days, next couple of weeks from the transfer portal, and round it out with McLean and somebody else, plus Parker and Jackson and Micah Coleman, who you hope Micah Coleman with a full summer, full season to rehab. Maybe you don't have as much of the normal rust coming off of was it Achilles for Coleman, or was it?
It was an Achilles.
Yeah. Achilles is rough, man. Hopefully it can get as shored up as possible for Micah, and he can make an impact immediately. Bearcats fans would love to see that. And then Taron Tayo, as I mentioned, the interior offensive lineman, he is coming over to Cincinnati in the transfer portal. As we get to the offensive additions here, I love this commitment here, the signing. Neil, Tayo has a lot of versatility, can play right tackle or right guard. I think he's probably going to fit in as a right guard, most likely, though, for 6'4", 322 pounds. He's got over 1,500 career snaps at Ball State, 78.1 PFF grade. That was a career high this past season. And another big fella, strong, straight, succinct identification from this Bearcats recruiting staff. I think Tayo should be solid right away for Cincinnati and really shore up that straight down the middle pass rush that you want to make sure Brendan Sorsby avoids.
Yeah, Russ, this is a big-time addition as well, too, because you look at Taron Tayo's size. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Cincinnati lost the guy in Jonathan Harder, who goes into the transfer portal, who was 6'2", close to that 310-pound threshold. And on top of it, you look down and you get that. That's a big-time addition. Obviously, another guy who has played multiple different positions on the offensive line. And you look down to Russ, it is a huge addition because this is a guy who has played tackle and guard. So on top of that, when you have both of those able to do that kind of right there, that's a huge thing. I mean, what is he?
And we saw this past season, like you have a guard go down mid-game. You got a tackle go down mid-game. You're having guys that can immediately know what to do at either spot is massive.
Yeah, having depth is huge, especially up front there on the defensive or the offensive line. And that's been the huge thing too. Because Russ, when you look down at the offensive line, Cincinnati, you saw guys go down last year. And D'Artagnan Tinsley was battling injuries. On top of that, you had DeAndre Buford, who was in and out. Philip Wilder was battling an injury to start the season. Having depth there in the front court is the biggest thing for Cincinnati. And you bring a guy in who has played multiple different positions, who was a first-team All-MAC selection. It's huge. It's huge. You can't teach that size, and Scott Satterfield and them even mentioned it, that they were going to go out there and look at those guys in the portal. But anytime, he even mentioned it, he goes, when you want to go out there and get those big boys, whether that's on the offensive line or the defensive line with that kind of size, you're going to have to open up the checkbook a little bit there. Now, not sure what happened there, but they were quickly able to land Tyron Teo. Just similar to Matthew McDoom, they got him right on campus, identified him, and was able to lock it down very quickly.
We close out the show with a final position of need secured in Caleb Goody. Neil, what did we say all final month of the season? This passing game needs receivers that can separate. And what can Caleb Goody do? That man can separate at over 21 miles per hour, gunned on the field in pads. This is a 20-plus yards per catch player, a guy who could take it to the house at any given moment. And I would say, Neil, maybe could end up the most impactful transfer of the group so far. I would say him and Tyron Teo are the two leaders in the clubhouse for that crown. 65.4 PFF grade on 477 snaps last season. Should complement Tony Johnson well. I think you can move Caleb Goody around, but mostly going to be an outside talent. Mixes in now with Cale Woodburn, Barry Jackson, and Tony Johnson, that wide receiver room. Likely going to add one. I would be shocked if they don't add another one, but likely add one, probably two more wide receivers to this group. 6'1", 170 pounds, had 21 catches for 436 yards and 4 touchdowns last season. It feels like, Neil, they finally have a deep threat after not really having one last season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think Caleb Goody would pair alongside with Joe Royer, who announced he's returning for the 2024.
I almost forgot to mention that. Yeah, that was announced.
Which is also huge news for Cincinnati, because now you have a guy who can go take the top off the defenses. Russ, you mentioned it. He's close to 21, 22 miles per hour. I mean, look at where he held offers from in the transfer portal. Kansas State, Texas Tech, Vanderbilt.
A lot of Big 12 competition.
A lot of Big 12 schools and even Big 10 schools were out there reaching. So overall, this is a huge addition. And you saw how hyped Brendan Sorsby was to get this guy locked down. I think Brendan Sorsby played a key role, obviously based on the pictures that we saw. But overall, the job got done right away. But I would expect Cincinnati to add at least 1 or 2 more wide receivers in the transfer portal as well.
That does it for us on this week's opening edition of Bearcat Blitz. We'll be back to preview the Friday night affair against Dayton later on this weekend. Give you all the latest transfer portal news for football and what has been a very nice start on that front for General Manager Zach Grant and the rest of that recruiting staff. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Eltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz after a winning Crosstown shootout by the Bearcats. First time in the history of the show that we can say that right here on the Believe Network, presented by Bet Online.
This is the second. 15 seconds left. Shot clock off. 4-point game. DeJulius puts up a 3.